First of all, welcome everybody to the CFDG. We'll let more people trickle in as they come in. I'm not sure what our how many more people will be joining, but today we have a couple of really great presentations. The first is going to be by Stephen Blackwell, and Stephen's going to be showing us a critical FileMaker security bug that he found that the newest version of FileMaker 2024 resolved. So if everything that the next presentation doesn't get you to move to FileMaker 2024, this one probably will. And then after Steven's done presenting, Doug Wallis from Claris is going to be presenting to us on all the new features of FileMaker 2024. So I think we could probably get going. Steven, if you'd like to take the screen and show us the security issue.
All right, let's see what we can do. Hang on just half a second. Got a minor problem here. Let me just now we got it. All right, let's see if we can share our screen here. And you should be seeing a slide that says, "What is the issue?"
Not yet.
Oh, that's rude. Has it come up?
Not yet.
All right.
There we go. Now we
All
see
right.
your screen.
All right, I'm going to have to start over again here. Sorry about that.
No problem. All right. I think we're good.
All right, good. Sorry about that. Error of the type PowerPoint. Okay, so there was a issue related to previous versions of the product going back several, versions at least. And what was that issue? Well, now the slide doesn't want to advance. All right. It was that there was the capability for causing an escalation of privileges to subordinate level users if any number of scripts of a certain type or other activities were run. And when I've concluded discussing this a little bit, I will post in the chat the link where you can go and download the white paper that Wim DeCord and I wrote about this. And it details the issues. It tells how they were triggered. It tells what they did. And then it tells how Claris ameliorated and corrected the issue. So, as I said, it was for subordinate level users an escalation of privileges, which allowed them to access the managed database, which is, as you know, the sort of the holy grail of the entire operation. And when they were able to do this, now remember, these are subordinate level users, and these are unintentional results. This is not an effort to allow a user with subordinate privileges to access managed database. That's a totally different issue that's not at hand here. When they could do that, they could get to fields, tables, and relationships. They could see and, do things with the fields. They could change them, delete them, add other information, and so forth. Likewise, they could manipulate and operate on the tables. This file, appropriately named obscure test, has only one table in it, but you could add tables, you could delete tables. You could also access the relationship graph area, and you could add table aliases, you could change the keys that were used for the joins, you could delete these, anything that you wanted to do. Once in the graph, you could also access the manage external data sources, which might give you access, depending on how other files were configured, to the information that were in those files. This was resolved by taking away the ability to access managed database. You can do the same actions over again in FileMaker 21, aka FileMaker 2024. Now you get nothing. Managed database is grayed out. Now there was an additional item that was also addressed, and that was that using some of these same triggers, which are fully explained and illustrated in the white paper, you could expose the watch tab to subordinate level accounts. And you could then do all the things in the watch tab that you might want to do, including triggering various calculations, extracting data, so on and so forth. And of course, you're not supposed to be able to do that. So this issue was resolved by shutting this off. So that is sort of the issue that was at hand and that was addressed. And this is a pretty significant issue that we discovered in not exactly by accident, but probably by inadvertence. It wasn't something I was looking for, but it was something that I found when I was doing something else. And I performed the action and went to the thing I was going to do next. And then I said, wait a minute, what did I just do? And backed up and repeated it and then started digging down in it. So that's pretty much the scope of the thing. And as I said, the paper will examine this in great detail. Does anyone have any questions about this?
As far as the version that this has been fixed in, is it just FileMaker 2024 or are like the latest versions
It
of
is just the current version, FileMaker 2024 20.1 point whatever it is, the one that was released on the 4th of June.
Cool, thanks.
Now, that said, Justin, there are ways to avoid causing these triggers to appear in earlier versions. And a lot of this flows from the indiscriminate use of run script with full access privilege. And Wim talked in his presentation in Austin at the Engage about the misuse of that particular feature in terms of, trying to do shortcuts on properly constructing privilege sets and things such as that. And you can see that video. It's on the Claris Engage site. Just go to community.claris.com and hunt for Engage, and it's an intermediate level presentation. And if I have the link, I'll post that too. Other questions?
Hey, Steve, I always look forward to your white papers, I think you referred to. You said it's a coming attraction?
No, it's been done. It's been up for a while, and I'm going to post the link here in just a few minutes.
Oh, okay, awesome.
So, but we wanted to make sure that people were aware of these issues and knew how to ameliorate them. There are some ways to ameliorate them without, let me rephrase that. There are some ways to ameliorate this in earlier versions, but it's been fixed in the FileMaker 2024.
Got it. So essentially, if you just don't perform the actions that cause it to happen, don't allow people to perform those actions, then you can have it, you can use the previous versions and not run into the issue.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean you can't run a script with full access. There are some very specific conditions that triggered this, and all of this is explained in the paper.
Got it.
Steve, does that include the steps that one can take to ameliorate? Let's say we have a, big bureaucratic customer that is on 19 server, let's say, struggling to get their clients up to a higher version. Or does the white paper have the amelioration steps that you mentioned?
Yes.
Awesome.
This is not a server function. This is a FileMaker Pro function.
Yeah, no, I just mentioned because, we got to take a step forward on the client side, take a step forward on the server side.
All right, so I will post the link here in just a minute. If there are any other questions. If not, I will get out of the way and let our distinguished colleague, Mr. Wallis from Claris, who has escaped the clutches of Paris, Parliament, the Olympics, and the Seine River, go on with his presentation. Thank you for your patience, Doug. Okay.
Thank you, Stephen.
You bet.
Cool. Thanks, Stephen. That's cool. I'll start. So my name is Doug Wallis. Sorry, I've had a bit of a COVID last week, so I'm still basically recovering from the cough. So I'm part of the PM team. I work with Rick Carman. He's been there for a long time. I've been at Claris for just over 10 years now. I started the 1st of July 2014. Originally, I started working at Claris or FileMaker as a system engineer for the European team, and then moved on to product management 4 years ago. Currently, I'm looking after FileMaker Pro essentially because we have some nice features and kind of work we're doing for the next release of FileMaker, which is going to come next year. And then in the team, there's people working on AI and stuff like that, and it's quite a big team. So we're trying to actually do as much as we can to actually provide the tools that developers can need. So I'm going to go through all the new features that we have in FileMaker 2024. Essentially, the big one being around AI and what we're trying to actually create so that we can help you start leveraging AI inside your solution or the solution for your customers or for your or internally. And then I'll go through some of the new updates that we have, and I'll do some couple of demos to give you an idea of how you can use some of the features that we've brought in the product. Let me share my keynote. So FileMaker 2024, so my name's Doug Wallis. As you guess, basically from the accent, I'm actually half French, half British. My mum from the south of France and my dad's from Liverpool. So it makes a nice mixture of both French and British humor. So hopefully I'll try to get and stay stable for the next 40 minutes. So first thing first, basically is Claris FileMaker 2024. One of the things that we did basically is we're trying to really get people to understand that FileMaker is part of the Claris platform. So the Claris platform is made of essentially 3 products. You've got FileMaker, you've got Connect and Studio. What we didn't do originally when we launched Connect and Studio was to make sure that people understood that what we were building was a platform that was basically enhancing FileMaker. So the flagship product out of Claris is still FileMaker. It's the one we've been working on for about 35 years. But we still know that we have features or elements or tools that we use inside the FileMaker that have been in for a very long time that are kind of hard for us to update to actually sort of take to the next level. And there's more things we can do with cloud-based services or API services or systems that we control outside basically the FileMaker world that would eventually help you create better apps. And one of the things we want to make sure people kind of understand that. So one of the things that we had to do is basically make sure that all the icons basically on the Claris platform have got the same color schemes. So when we talk about all the different products, people do understand that it's all part of the same stuff. So for this one, all we had to do was change the blue from the green from blue. That's pretty much the icon that you'll be able to see. So what we tried to actually do with FileMaker 224, a lot of the work was done around trying to get script steps and functions inside the various FileMaker product line to help you start leveraging AIs inside your app. So with FileMaker 24, what we want to do is basically we want to give you those capabilities so that you can get more out of your data. You can get more insights, you get more value from your data. And we've done it in a way where you control basically the security around it, and you can actually control the type of data that can actually be leveraged with the AI and type of queries that you can actually do around it. So what we've been focusing for this version essentially is around giving you native support for semantic search. So if you've started or if you've already sort of been playing with AI, you can actually already do it in FileMaker 23 or 2023. You can do it in FileMaker 19. Anything that basically has an API and has inside FileMaker will be able to actually exchange data from the FileMaker solution to any type of API that actually lives outside the FileMaker world. The problem is basically if you do that in FileMaker 2023 or 19, to create the script steps to be able to actually log into the account, send to the right, to figure out all the API endpoints where you need to actually send the information, that's going to take a huge amount of time. And then on top of that, afterwards, you have to actually figure out how you actually do your semantic search. So the idea for us is to create a couple of script steps and functions to make you get into the bandwagon of starting to actually enable your system, your users, to be able to use semantic search. So before I get anywhere, what is actually semantic search? So you've been using FileMaker in Google in pretty much any type of environment when you do a search around lexical search. So lexical search essentially is you have an index, you type in your word, it tells you where that word can actually be found, whether it's a record or whatever, and it actually brings you the entry. So if you type the word shoes and you have a field for product, every field or every record that has the word shoes in that record will show up in that search when you do the search. But if you're looking for other similar content, index search doesn't give you the information. So if you type in shoes, FileMaker through the index search or any other environment is not going to give you boots, sneakers, fashion, all the stuff that actually can actually live around it. And that's where semantic search is going to basically help you, because it does a search around the meaning, the context of what you've actually been giving it. And one thing which is kind of nice for FileMaker developers is you've been working on context since you've actually been developing in FileMaker. So we're hoping basically that the way of thinking inside the FileMaker, where a lot of the things around the context, is going to help basically developers create the way around it. Because once you understand the context, then you can do the prompt, which is basically the question you're asking with the AI with the data, and that will give you the best results. So around semantic searching, basically, the idea is to allow you to be able to do natural language questions around your data inside your applications without having to actually expose your data to every other customers of OpenAI or other sort of LLMs models on the planet. So performing the semantic find essentially is going to basically allow you to do a specific search on your data where you're going to control basically the similarity between all the different sort of word and meaning inside the environment so that it gives you the result that you're looking for. Around that, we have a couple of those actions and functions. Essentially, the idea is to allow you to actually log into a large language model. The way we've done it to make it easier is you'll be able both to actually use a public model or local one. So the public that we have in this version is around OpenAI because it's the biggest one on the planet. It's the one that actually gives you basically the most amount of good sort of results based on the data you can provide. But at the same time, we do understand that not everyone wants to send the data to OpenAI. Even though when you're sending the data, it stays inside your account, it doesn't get shared with other users. In a lot of cases, or you have a lot of data, it might be easier for you to leverage what we call an open source LLM. So a large language model that you can cite on your own servers. So you can use a MacBook because they're quite powerful. The specific Apple chip can do a lot of AI work, or you can use servers from AWS or whatever systems that has a nice GPU, and it's going to be able to actually leverage the data and build a model where you're going to be able to actually do the search. So within the script steps, basically you'll have one where you can actually configure the account. It's going to tell you, or you're going to tell it the model you want to use, where the information goes, and then basically you'll be able to actually create basically this embedding where your data is going to be vectorized. We have all information to be able to install the Open LLM, both in FileMaker Server and Pro. There's a couple of Python scripts that actually have to be run, but essentially is we give you all the information so that we kind of tell you how to install Python, get everything to actually work on your system kind of really easy. On top of that, we've made sure that we have sufficient logins so that you can see, troubleshoot basically when you have issues, when data is being sent back and forth with the AI. The idea that we have basically is we want to give you those tools, those new sort of script steps and functions that you can add on top of your current system so that you don't actually have to build from scratch. There is no need for you to actually sort of go, my system isn't done properly, I'm going to have to rebuild it. The idea is for us to give you those tools so that you can actually build on top of that. And the idea is that we want to make sure that every quarter when we have an update, we're going to be able to actually give you new options, new features to make it even easier for you to be able to actually leverage AI. So one of the big queries that we have is people are saying is, I have PDF stored inside a FileMaker solution. I need to be able to actually search the data inside those PDFs. We are working to actually build a PDF plugin that's going to basically enable the PDF to be vectorized so that the embedding that has all the information to the searches can actually be done kind of nicely for you. The story of basically of AI inside of FileMaker has been there for a long time. So we have core ML models that we brought to FileMaker 19, where you could actually send images or text to the core ML inside on the Mac or the iPhone, and it will be able to actually give you a result of either in terms of the image into the description of what it contains in the image, or based on text, it could basically give you some sentiment analysis on the data we give you. With FileMaker 2023, when you're leveraging the REST API, you can actually start doing some work around it. And within Claris Connect, we have a couple of connectors that really easily allow you to actually send data to OpenAI or clarify, and so it gives you answers in the back. So essentially is you have script steps and you have functions. You have the whole system to be able to actually grab the data from your FileMaker solutions, whether it's text or fields. You send it basically to the LLM, it's going to do its work, and then it's going to basically bring back an embedding, and you're going to do the search on the embedding that's actually stored inside the FileMaker solution. So you're not actually every time querying the model for the data, you're actually looking inside a container or text file that is actually stored inside the FileMaker. So to make more sense, I'm going to do a quick demo so that everyone can actually see where we work it out. So I've got a FileMaker solution which was built by Ronnie Rios. So he's currently the main guy basically at FileMaker Claris working on AI. So he's built this really nice sort of file where basically is we insert into a container a text document, and then we pass it, we chunk it up basically into 200 words mini text file that we send basically to OpenAI, so that OpenAI can actually create an embedding. So basically it's going to vectorize all the words and the context and the meaning into a 3D kind of environment where words and context are linked between one and the other. So how does it look like basically when you're sending data? So this is basically, I've got the Claris Connect terms and conditions. This is the first part of the text. So the text is about 10,000 words. We're chunking down into a bunch of 200 words. So this is the chunk that I'm going to basically sending out to OpenAI through my account. So basically it's stored inside my account. It doesn't get shared within other users. It's just leveraging the models from OpenAI, but my data doesn't get mixed with everyone else's data. It says in my environment. So this data basically gets sent to OpenAI, and then OpenAI is going to basically send me back this, what we call this FileMaker vector embedding, which essentially it's a list of numbers, which is pretty much what you can see here, a list of similarities between different words and meanings of the words in that document. So imagine all the words basically in space, and you have lines between words, and then depending basically on whether they're very close or very far, you have a grade between -1 and 1 in terms of the quality of the results. So if you're -1, basically the complete opposite. If it's anything between 0.7 and 1, they're very close words, and below that, we basically have very less meaning. So basically between the word shoes and boots, you'll have maybe a 0.08 similarity. But if you take shoes and a cutlery, you'll have a 0.01 similarity. And that's basically how you actually do the search afterwards. So when you're actually doing the semantic find inside the FileMaker, you're looking for data that's actually stored in that container field in embedding. And actually that's what the speed of the system is actually kind of cool. So again, so I've got 23 documents, they're all text files, they all stuff basically leverage all the information around FileMaker 2024. So my account is only looking for data in an environment. So if I go and type in who is Douglas Wallis, as there's no basic information about me in those documents, it's not able to actually give anything back because it doesn't look through all the internet. It's looking only for this information. The way we've done it to make it nicer is, so we basically do the search internally. If we have a result, we then send back the chunk to the OpenAI, and we say, in that chunk, you found the answer. Can you basically rewrite the answer in the proper English? It actually does mean something for the end user. So if I do what is new in FileMaker 2024, it's going to go through all the 23 text. It's basically going to have the information back, and it's going to send it back to OpenAI saying, hey, basically the information that I found is source in those chunks. Based on the information that I've sent you, can you write in a proper English sentence all the new features that you can actually find in FileMaker 2024? And so this is the result that I'm getting back basically written. I can ask anything that basically is stored in information. So sometimes it's not going to know really the right answer. So if I basically ask it, what is curl? It's not going to give me answer of curl in general. It's going to give me answer of curl inside the FileMaker. So it's going to basically kind of understand from what we told it in the release notes and the help guide what it can do, but it basically will take example of anything that is supported by Claris inside this version, and it's not going to give you information about the rest. And so with information, after that, you can do other things around it. You can actually ask any type of questions that you wanted. If you had like quotes with dates, you could ask it, give me all the quotes between $1,000 in the last 4 weeks, and it will be able to actually sort of do that. And the one thing which is kind of nice around it, but just to be careful about, is because it understands meanings and context and it can relate words. If you're misspelling words, it's going to be able to actually kind of figure out whether they are misspelled, or if you're using plurals and singulars, it's going to be able to actually sort of extend basically the search around that and not just do like in FileMaker a basic index search. It's going to basically go to the next level. So this is basically how we actually leveraging semantic search inside the FileMaker. And the idea is for us to bring new tools inside the FileMaker for you to be able to do fine tuning, to be able to actually train basically the engine a bit better, to be able to better leverage OpenLMs locally so that you could actually give it your data, get it to learn a bit more, do some training around your data. So when you ask it questions, it's going to be quicker at giving you the answer. The one thing on top of it is you don't actually have to send back and forth always to send the data. Once you've actually got this embedding stored locally, if a text file or if a record doesn't change, there's no need to actually update it and resend it to OpenAI or the OpenLM to actually do the work. It's only when you have updates, you can send a bit of text, a bit of information. It's going to learn with the rest of the information you already sent, and it's going to give you new embeddings on that side. And on top of that, one of the big things we're doing is working on this whole sort of idea of integration, like basically make it easier for people to have more tools to integrate with various systems. So OpenAI essentially is around integration, but there's a lot of work that has to be done around JSON. So we've actually been working on producing new script sets and functions to make it easier to do more things with JSON. Better way to be able to get specific elements within the response of a JSON payload, very sort of small aspect just to make your life a lot easier. When I've done this presentation before, there's a lot of people getting scared around learning JSON. And what I kind of tell them is, if you can actually do FileMaker scripting and you've been able to understand how that works, and you've started and you've played around a bit with custom functions, JSON itself isn't really that hard, because basically it has nice sort of brackets. You can actually kind of see between the key value kind of pairs, and it's actually kind of straightforward. And once you get into it, because it's actually readable text, it's not actually that hard to actually sort of understand how it kind of works. Other thing we've been working on is making sure that we can do more stuff around the data API. So we have the data API on the server, but we have the data API working as well directly on the Draco engine inside a FileMaker. So in the previous version of FileMaker, we created a script steps called execute FileMaker data API, where you could do queries around your data. And so you could query or say, give me basically 50 records, and then it will give you JSON payloads of record basically based on your query. With this new version in FileMaker 2024, you can actually do write operations. So you can actually write through the data API by sending a JSON payload to the Draco engine in a way that's kind of changed the way you've been creating entries in FileMaker. So essentially in FileMaker, what the big thing is, when you're trying to actually move between a context or file or window, you have to actually get the engine to go to a specific window, to go to a field, write data into a field, and that can actually take a bit of time. The one thing which is kind of nice with this new feature is within a context, well, not even within the context, within any type of window, you can actually grab data from a layout for whatever, and you can actually write information into the layout without actually having to open it, to be able to actually create whatever you want to do. I'm just going to do a quick demo for that so that you have an idea of how that works, and hopefully we'll give you some insights. Share my FileMaker. So this is a small contact file that I have. Essentially, I've got stored like first name, last name. But basically what I've stored is I've got my email addresses for those customers stored in a different table, so different table occurrence. Same for the address, it's actually stored somewhere else. So if I wanted to actually sort of kind of write information sometimes, you have to figure out a way to be able to actually write in the table that you're looking at, the table occurrence you're looking at for that layout, and then sometimes move around, use record IDs or primary keys or foreign keys. It kind of sometimes kind of can actually be a long thing. And then especially in your scripts can actually be quite long because you're going to have to do self-fill in different places. So with the execute basically FileMaker data API, the one thing you can actually do is actually create a payload where you're going to actually be able to send to the engine in one script steps all the information will go. So this one is not going to mean much to you, but if I put it basically in the data viewer, you will be able to actually see the payload that I'm sending. So basically is I'm grabbing different information and I'm basically writing, so my action is going to be to create the field data that I'm sending is essentially is I want to send to those fields in that layout all this information. So if those fields basically are present on that layout, that payload is going to be received and is going to be implemented by the API. If one of those fields isn't found on that layout, it basically won't actually write anything. So the one thing to be careful about when you're using basically this execute FileMaker API is to make sure that all the fields that you want to talk to or write data into, read data from, have to be on that layout. Otherwise, you won't be able to actually sort of do it. And so if you have multiple portals in one script steps, you could actually write
215-686 tips, even if they remain anonymous. Kristen,
sorry, yeah, cool, thanks. You can actually write to multiple portals, various information in different fields, as long as they actually belong to that layout. So basically, when I write this, it just sends everything. I just need to do one script step, and you can just write the stuff. And so in my case, basically, when I click on it, it does a few stuff in the background, but it's basically, it can write kind of a record in the background without me having to worry what it's doing it properly. So it's kind of a nice way to be able to actually write content across multiple windows or files without having to actually switch between the context. We've done some updates on the reverse transaction in a subscript. That was a big request by a lot of partners and developers, so that it basically allows you to have more controls over the error handling when you're doing transactions. Again, we created a couple of new functions around JSON make array. We've added some new things even on the JSON script steps, just to make your life a lot easier. And the last one, get live text as JSON, essentially is to be able to actually bring the position of words on an image when we use to get live text from iOS and the Mac now. We've done some work on OData as well, so we're trying to actually get as quickly as we can to the compliance to the latest version. This one basically we've been spending quite a lot of work making sure that navigating between entities inside different, the relation between different tables works better, but if using OData, they should actually fix some of the issues. Again, one of the features that we brought is this open quickly. So it kind of started in 19, but it wasn't doing that much. This new shortcut basically that you can activate, so on the Mac and Windows, on the Mac, it's Apple Care and it's Command Care, I think, on Windows. Essentially, it allows you to actually do a search for any windows, any type of layouts, file that your system can actually view. So it's not something that is going around security. Is whatever the user can see, the open quickly basically system will see the same thing. So if your script steps are not ticked and they're not showing up in the list of scripts that you have in FileMaker Pro, then Open Quickly is not going to actually sort of search for them. It has to be visually available basically to the environment for it to be seen. So currently it's working on databases, layout and scripts. We're doing some enhancements, and I'll quickly show you some stuff so that it can actually look through relations. It can look through other places in a nicer way. Local notification is now supporting on FileMaker Pro. So before we just had that on the go. Now you can actually use it on Pro, both on the Mac and Windows. There's a, strangely enough, basically the notification element inside the Windows 11 gives you a bit more power than you can actually have on the Mac. It gives you a bit more control over the UI, but essentially is you can actually create the text and then the buttons to actually do specific scripts for you. And then again, based on feedback, we've been adding more insights into the import log. Now we're grading information about themes and the value list. So this is basically a quick screenshot of how Open Quickly works. You type in a word, it's going to give you as a result the table
Doug,
occurrence.
I think we're still seeing the FileMaker Pro screen.
Oh, sorry.
Not the presentation.
Sorry. Should be there.
No problem.
So this is sorry.
Right.
So this is the Open Quickly layout. So when I do a quick search, basically either can show me through scripts or through the layouts, and this is the local notification in FileMaker. So what we're working on basically is for the next version, and I'll quickly show you so at least you can see where we make sure we can prove to anyone that we're actually doing work and we're listening to the feedback from the community. The new version of FileMaker, if it wants to. Bring up the file. So basically, this is the latest version of FileMaker, so 2024 but new version. So if I do Apple Care, I've got this Open Quickly menu. If I do first name, basically it's going to look, because I've got full access, it's going to allow me to actually look through two files that I've actually got opens, and it's going to basically allow me that in this one I've got for the first, I've got one field called first name. If I double click on it, it's going to open basically my contact and actually take me directly to the file. This is because I've got full privileges, full access. If I basically have an access and I tell Open Quickly not to actually go through the file, the only thing it will be able to do is actually search through the windows. So basically those Windows names, and then my recent, and that's basically it. It's not going to be able to actually go more in details than that. But if I do another one and I do A, as you can see, it's going to show me all the tables that I've got access to, the fields, and then the files that actually either through that are recent or basically in my favorites. So the idea is to help out the developer be able to actually move between different environments quicker. So we're working based on that. We have a few more feedback from users. There's a lot of stuff that we're trying to actually fix, but ideally to be able to actually bring very shortly an update version of that you can actually use it based on your needs and then control exactly how you want your end users to be able to actually have access to this feature. Again, one of the big things that we're doing is around PSR, so which is performance, stability, and reliability. We have a team spend pretty much 24/7 going through all the tickets creating from the ETS, from customer support, from community. So we make sure that we have all this information so that we can fix the issue, or we can basically realign the work that we're doing on some of the new feature enhancements. So Open Quickly is a great example where we do kind of the issue work, we put it through the ETS, we have some feedbacks, we fix some of the issues, other takes more time, we put it out, we have more feedback, and we basically try to actually build what is going to work for you and your users long term, and so that you can use the latest version of FileMaker. On the server side, basically the big update that we have is to be able to bring native support for Let's Encrypt. The idea is to basically make the process a lot easier than it used to be, and to be able to actually support it through our customer support team. Top of that is to bring an optimized admin console, so administrators actually have greater control of what they can do, and over the setup and basically the backups and the controlling of it. So one of the things I always say is basically what we try to do is make FileMaker server, especially admin console, kind of very boring. The idea is you set it up, you set up your script, your backup schedules, your system scripts, all the things that you need to do, the alerts, the notification, and once you have it actually running, there's no need to actually open it every day to see whether it's actually working properly. The other aspect is around SSL certificate. When you have an SSL certificate, every year you have to go back to your admin console, refresh certificate, normally go to the provider, get a new one. It takes a bit of time. And we have a lot of customers as well saying is, well, I don't actually want to spend an extra $100 for a SSL certificate. I don't see the value behind it. And for a long time, basically, Let's Encrypt has been on the market. We were trying to figure out a nice way to be able to actually sort of work around it, to be able to integrate with the system so that end users could easily integrate Let's Encrypt into the system. So the great benefit of Let's Encrypt that everyone sees is the fact that it's free. But if you look at the manifesto for Let's Encrypt, the foundation around it, essentially it has to be it's not a question whether you should actually have a SSL certificate. It's you have to have one because it's the first line of defense against hacking or anyone trying to get your data. And so the idea behind it is that it should be free and simple to actually sort of leverage. So what we worked around the system was to be able to give you a couple of Python scripts. Essentially, first version is on Mac and Ubuntu, but we'll get it to work for Windows as well, whereby you could easily set up the scripting or the system script between the FileMaker server and the Let's Encrypt system so that it could be updated with the native cadence that Let's Encrypt basically wants people to do. So the cadence of updating the SSL certificate with Let's Encrypt is every 90 days. And so we've created basically a system script inside the FileMaker where every 90 days automatically you can create your own. It will basically refresh and renew the certificate in the background without having you to actually worry about anything. The other thing we've done on top of it is to consolidate basically the scheduling view. So currently in FileMaker 2024, within FileMaker 2023, we had two versions. You had like the backup area and you had the scheduling for the system scripts and the FileMaker scripts. They were kind of confusing and it was kind of different areas. It wasn't ideal. So one of the work that we decided to do is let's basically kind of rebuild it to make it a lot easier. So I'm just going to share basically my admin console so that you can actually look at it. So this is my FileMaker server admin console. It's running on my MacBook. So the big area basically we're working on is around the backup and basically the scheduling. So essentially is you had all the settings for your schedules and stuff like that in the environment. But it wasn't kind of easy to be able to actually control everything. So what we did basically is inside the schedule environment, we've actually recreated the interface so that it gives you new options. So essentially, we're using a Node.js sort of JavaScript library where you can actually control the fields or the columns that you want to see. You can reorder them. So there's a bit of basically interactivity inside it, so you can do whatever you want. But the idea is basically is for you to have one place to create all your schedules. So when I create schedules, I've got all the different type of schedule types that I could do inside the admin console with all the different options that everything has. So FileMaker script is normal things. Then you have your system scripts where you could actually use the reload to Let's Encrypt, but as well you can actually run the garbage collection for FileMaker Web Direct. You can purge your databases if you want to, and you can verify information. You have your script set sequences, same as what we have previously inside the FileMaker. You can verify the files, and then you can do backups where you can select when they want to go, the type of or the database that you want to select, whether everything or from a folder. You have the settings around whether you want to do just a clone, where they get saved, and basically everything. Once I actually created that, it's going to create inside the backup a second backup schedule where I can specifically basically control from that scheduled environment. So I can actually create and only show the backups from that schedule. I can cancel it. I can do pretty much everything I want. So it gives you more control of how you want to do your schedules. On top of that, it makes it easier because we've been making the administrator role be better. So with that, you can actually give specific access to specific tabs inside the admin console so they can do whatever they want. So you could actually create a specific backup schedule for a customer of yours, and they'll be able to actually control that backups, but they won't be able to actually control all the backups inside the system. So essentially, most of the work we've done that. We've done some fixes around the administration role, the restrict access, but essentially the biggest part of it is around the scheduling. The other thing we've been working on is around persistent cache. And I'm going to spend about a minute on that just to make sure people understand what it is, because we've been having quite a lot of questions, and we just want to make sure that people realize the importance of first enabling it and how it's going to basically work. So persistent cache basically is a copy of your FileMaker server cache saved in memory. So currently is when you have a FileMaker solutions, you assign it at 1 gig or 2 gig or whatever the right may be. This is stored basically in the memory of the FileMaker server. So as long as the FileMaker server service is actually running, that cache is alive. But if your FileMaker server crashes, you kind of lose the cache. And that's where it's going to create issues, because when the server is restarting, we're trying to actually create the data file in FileMaker based on the cache. And if there's no cache, it's going to have issues because it's going to not really know whether the data has been received properly. So that kind of creates issues. When you have persistent, when you have persistent cache basically enabled, you're going to have your cache saved in memory. So if your FileMaker server service crashes, FileMaker server, when it restarts, is going to be able to actually grab that cache from memory and rebuild your cache properly inside the system, put everything back into the data file, and then you'll have the system running properly. The other option on top of it is you can actually save or sync that cache to disk. So that means taking basically a copy of that persistent cache and put it inside your hard disk, whether it's SSD or hard disk, doesn't matter. It will be able to actually sort of do that. If you enable those two, because it's doing actually in that case 2 copies of your cache, there might be a bit of a performance downgrade, but it's going to be between kind of 5% maximum, because basically it's doing really quickly and it doesn't take that much time. But if you have a very big cache, we in a lot of cases we don't actually sort of get people to actually have cache too big. Obviously, it's going to take more time. And if you have a cache file that's too big and you haven't got enough memory left on the machine, that's going to create issues. So the idea is if you have a cache between like 2 and 4 gig and have the persistent cache on the side and saving to disk, you shouldn't actually see that much of a hit inside the system. And that enables us to actually enable, on top of that, this auto restart database server, which means that if your database server crashes or has to shut down, with this enable, automatically, basically, it will be able to actually relaunch. So the FMS helper in the background will look for this to be, for the FileMaker server database engine to be running properly. If it sees that it's down, it's going to restart it. And it's all a way for us to be able to make it easier for the end users or to be able to do the work without the system crashing, and for the developers of the engine or the solutions to be able to actually do updates kind of easily and be able to actually control who gets access, to be able to do updates in the background by blocking users, by doing updates of the server without affecting too much the work. So we're trying to actually create an environment where developers will be able to actually do update of the file in an easier way with actually more control day in, day out. Back to my slide if I can find it. So this is a quick screenshot basically of that schedule environment. The other thing we've been working on heavily is around what we call what everyone calls application lifecycle management. And so we're trying to give tools for the developers so that they can they can have a better experience of lifecycle management of the app they're actually creating. So one of the great stuff in FileMaker is always this option to be able to do live coding, but for large customers or for best practices, there should always be a production environment, a testing environment, and a dev environment. And so we've been building over the last couple of years various tools to make it easier for people to actually have information being moved from a production environment or from the development environment to the testing environment to the production environment. One of them basically is around the migration tool. We have the upgrade tool. We recently launched the FileMaker developer tool, which is essentially developer tools from FileMaker Pro Advanced that you can actually use directly on the command line inside the terminal. And then a lot of the work that we're doing is on Save as XML. So Save as XML is the serialization of a FileMaker solution. So everything is in XML. And we're putting a lot more information inside it because we want to help you developers to be able to actually see how your data is being moved around. And on top of that, we have a lot of users and companies making use of these Save as XML, like Inspector Pro, like FM Perception, Base Element, that actually leverage basically the XML they produce so that they can create those great apps to actually make your life a lot easier to be able to actually see what's going on inside your app. So a lot of work has been done on that. And then at the same time, on the admin API, we're bringing new features to make it a lot easier for people to be able to actually manage as much as they want with their FileMaker server through their own kind of control environment. FileMaker Go, kind of straightforward. Essentially, what we're trying to do is bringing more support or feature parity between Go and Pro. There's a lot of features that we have inside of Go that for a long time we actually didn't have time to invest, where we thought, well, if you can do it now on a Pro, and because most of the devices running FileMaker Go have vaguely the same amount of power as a MacBook Air from a couple of years ago, there's no reason why people shouldn't be able to actually do it. So bringing basically the options for people to be able to capture any type of bandwidth file inside container field on a FileMaker Go. That was a bit of a pain when people wanted to actually import like InDesign documents or stuff like that. It wasn't working. Now it's really basically supported. Again, be able to actually import different type of text file through scripting inside of FileMaker Go. We only had a couple. The two that's still not working is XML and Excel. Essentially, it's an issue around the sandbox environment in which FileMaker Go lives, but we're trying to figure out a way to be able to actually live around it. And then last one, again, as I mentioned before, is to get more information around the get live text function in FileMaker Go. A couple of small things we built basically is support for widgets. So if you like having widgets on your phone or iPads, now you can actually create your own inside for FileMaker Go. The only thing you can do basically is have two sizes. So it can be the big one and the small one. And essentially it will show your favorite apps, and it's limited to 5 of those apps. We brought a feature that we had in Pro so that you can specifically have a file being launched every time you launch FileMaker Go. So it saves you having to do those web links that people had to do in the past. And then the last one was to be able to actually open a link directly from inside FileMaker Go to Safari or Chrome without having to actually use the Safari browser inside of FileMaker Go, which was kind of limited in what you could do. Quick screenshot basically of that widget. So it's kind of straightforward to set up and kind of useful if you have favorites that you want to use daily. And then the last one basically is around the community. So like everything we talked about is, and Brad basically mentioned quite a few times, FileMaker without developers is actually nothing. It's a blank page. It doesn't do anything out of the box. So we really rely on the community, and the community has been really cool working with us through like those type of meetings, developer groups. But even on our community website, we've been getting a lot more demo files and content from partners and developers, and especially around AI. Like let's kind of know that basically there's a lot of hype around AI on the planet. A lot of people asking the question is it really worthwhile for me to actually start using it? And we're thinking that basically by sort of going for the angle of semantic search and actually having demo files and then podcasts and then information from partners, it's going to be easier for you to actually start leveraging. So we have a couple of demo files from Ronnie Rios, and then Jonathan Nicoletti created the add-ons based on those demo files. There's a lot of basically demos that have been created with partners that you can actually check out on the Claris community. We're going to have this podcast being done by various partners around the planet and developers. And then on our Claris Academy and with partners, we're going to start creating more content around AI and how to actually start using it inside your solutions. Again, when I was talking about the application lifecycle management and several copies XML, we're kind of working closely with those partners to be able to actually bring as much as we can the needs that they have to be able to actually create those great tools that helps you basically optimize your application and in the future help you actually modernize your system. So whether it's Inspector Pro, Baked Element, FM Assumption, there's a few out there, but those basically the main tools. And we're really trying to actually help those developers build better tools so that you can actually optimize all the work that you've done. Quickly, last one is around the hosting and lifecycle management. So we have a couple of partners building great solutions, again, leveraging whether it's the migration tool, the upgrade tool, developer tool, or several copies XML to make it easier for you to actually have a proper environment where you can do application lifecycle management around the idea, again, of development, testing, and production, which is vital for larger companies and even small ones. It makes the life a lot easier when you know that you can have developers work in an environment that if they do funny things, it's not going to affect the whole of the rest of the company, and everyone's going to be able to actually leverage the tool that was built properly. So that was me. I know I talk a lot. There was a lot of it, but if you have any questions, we can actually go through them now. Any questions?
Yeah, I had one question on scheduled scripts. You used to be able to, it's nothing you touched on, but you used to be able to have a scheduled script and then say, repeat this every 10 minutes during a day. And now you can't do that. I wonder why that was taken away.
You can repeat now. So is it a FileMaker script or a?
I'll make a script that I run. I like run it early in the morning to just clean up some data and handle some denormalization stuff, for instance.
Okay. So on this version, in this latest version, you have an option to be able to repeat every 10 minutes or every 5 or whatever minutes you want to.
Oh, I didn't see that when I was. I'll take another look.
Let me just.
Sorry, that's back again. Okay, good. I'm glad to see that.
So on this section, wherever at the bottom, you'll have the start time, the end time.
And okay, sorry. So that was not there. That wasn't there in
2023 wasn't there. No.
No.
Okay. It wasn't there.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad it's back.
Yeah.
I think if you run a system script, that's going to be run with the user FS admin as the user on the operating system.
You can use, so you got 2 options, either use the default account, or if you have a specific account, you can use that specific account if you have created another one.
Oh, okay. Because I was getting around by making FS admin a pseudo user, but you don't have to do that now. Okay.
No.
Okay, thanks.
Or if you have a very closed environment, very secure, normally sometimes people are being asked to actually create a specific account that's different for whatever reason, and then you can use a non-default account if you want to.
Oh, okay, thanks. Yeah, good.
And before I forget, so we have an update the FileMaker Cloud as well. So it came out. It started Monday night, so basically on Tuesday, and yesterday we did the update of FileMaker Cloud. Essentially, it's pretty much a couple of things we worked on. Again, is more the auto maintenance. So if you use FileMaker Cloud, it allows you to be able to control when basically the instance restarts every night. And the big work that we actually had to do, we've updated all the machines to leverage the new Graviton CPUs from Amazon. So everything's been moved to Ubuntu 22, and we use the new CPUs from Amazon, the Graviton ones. They are, I would say, for the Apple side of it, is really nice because they use a lot less energy, and so we are always trying to make an effort to actually be sensible to that. But on top of it is the speed increase is roughly between 15 and 20%, just by actually leveraging them. And the systems that we use for the storage in the background, we use two types of storage. The Graviton work a bit better with those two types of storage. So the speed of the solutions on the cloud should run better with those new machines than they used to.
Paul Davis asked a question in the chat. I assume Let's Encrypt is not supported under Claris Cloud Server.
No, it's not. No, because for the so Claris Cloud doesn't exist. So on FileMaker Cloud, we provide the certificate, and so FileMaker Claris is the owner of the SSL certificate. So it's your company name .account FileMaker, and FileMakerCloud.com is the domain name that has the SSL certificate, and it's controlled by Apple. And so we use AWS /Apple control SSL certificate. So you don't actually have to worry about that. It's all included basically within FileMaker Cloud.
I found one change in WebDirect. If you want to use the home URL equals option on a WebDirect URL, you have to actually configure the ability to do that in the deep down there in the settings files. I can't remember which one, but that's a change. So
yeah, there's a FM home page URL somewhere on the web server where you can actually modify that file.
yeah, and you have to actually specify the list of URLs you're allowed to use as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So if WebDirect stops working for you when you upgrade, you need to check that.
Yeah, I think we have a blog entry. I think we do have a blog entry. I can't remember. We have so many blogs now. Let me just check. I think we do have a blog where we actually explain how to actually leverage that.
Yeah, I found it on a couple of site entries.
Yeah. And so if you haven't really looked, basically, so the Claris engineering blog, just put the link in the chat. We've had quite a few sort of new updates when we launched FileMaker 24. Basically, is what we're working on those is so there's a lot of content inside it because the idea is we want to give you as much information for you to actually be able to actually use it. So when you actually go to the one on working with LLMs, there's a lot of content in it, but we want to make sure we give you everything that's needed for you to be able to start leveraging and have all the information. So the cadence is going to grow a bit more, like those 4 were kind of long to write, but the idea is to be able to actually every 2 months have a couple of more blogs where we kind of give you more insight into various parts of how the whole system kind of works.
A quick question. If somebody can cut me off if they want me to shut up and let somebody else speak, but working with Claris Studio data in FileMaker is very, very slow, to the point that use it at any scale is pretty much unworkable. Is there plans to sort of move that along? And
so yeah, we're working on that. We what can I say? We're working on creating a new API to kind of, I would say, go the other way around. Currently, it's FileMaker looking at Studio. We're kind of looking, well, maybe it might be easier for Studio to actually look at FileMaker. So we're working on redefining the API in the backend so that we can basically really increase the speed that we have inside the environment so that it could be used properly. So the work is being done on that. I haven't got a launch date for when we have that, but we're really working on that so that you'll be able to really sort of leverage and create proper FileMaker studio forms powerful enough to be able to actually leverage FileMaker data.
okay.
It's getting there. It's taking time. I know it's a pain. It's a pain for us internally, but we're trying to go for the angle of if we have since we have FileMaker the flagship, and we know that FileMaker people want to get data that in FileMaker inside Studio, then we need to figure out a way for Studio to be able to actually read and write data directly in FileMaker in a nice way and not the complex way that we currently have now.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear. Thanks.
Tony, I see your hand is raised. Tony, go ahead if you.
I think he's maybe on the screen. So he put the link for the product plan. I'll just share again. Sorry. So we created basically on our community a website 2 pages around our product backlog or product plan basically, and a marketing backlog. So if you haven't seen the previous one, basically the previous one where we have all this information, we kind of give you basically all the features that we're working on, and then we give you the option to be able to actually vote for what you do like. There's 2 benefits. There's one big benefit for us is if we produce a feature that has a lot of points, then we kind of are aligned with the rest of the community, and we kind of know what people actually kind of do like. When we produce, I got it, the bottom one. When we produce basically features that have a low point, it's either because we haven't told enough users the potential benefit they can actually gain for it, or actually they're not actually using that much, or they're so excited about something else that maybe we need to find a different way to actually sort of claim. So we have released this new backlog that has a lot of things around Studio and Connect. There's a few more we'll add when we actually have them pretty much done in a way where we can actually give information. But the idea is for people to be able to actually go there, click on what they like, and then that way it gives us a bit more information on where we're going. The other one we have is the marketing blog. This is basically the same idea, but it's more basically around how do we actually reach out to new developers, to the information that we give you, their value and stuff like that. So kind of useful as well for us to get a lot of feedback from you to figure out where actually you might be thinking that doing this is actually of use, but actually what we prefer is something else. Like recorded demo of Claris platform, something that we thought wasn't of a lot of use because a lot of partners with, we do realize that a lot of people are actually asking for it. So for us, it's like, well, if we have a lot more requests around us doing more of the sort of platform demos, then it's something that we should be doing, and maybe not just get the partners to do it for us. So you can go to those 2 pages, you can vote for the one that you actually sort of do like, and that will give us more information. Again, like stuff like certification, they're getting a lot of basically good feedback, so it's actually good for us to actually get all that information.
Tony, I see your hand is raised again. Do you have a question? All right. Are there any other questions from the group? Doug, I do have a question. Or the materials that you presented today, would it be possible for us to for you to share those materials with us, the slide and the demo files?
So the slides, definitely. The demo files, we are fixing a couple of bugs, and then we'll put them on the community website into Claris AI and Claris FileMaker, and so that people that way can actually have a central place to be able to get the file. And on top of it, it's easier if someone finds a bug or if we have something that doesn't work, we just have one location to actually update for everyone. So we're working on those, and hopefully we'll have them really in a short time. But the presentation, the PDF, the same, I can probably put it on the community website, and then we can give you the link and so the share across all the users.
That'll be great. And then I know you're presenting tomorrow in a presentation for Claris about security. Do you want to plug that?
Yeah. So the other thing we're doing as well is we're doing what we call now the Claris Community Live Session. So we've run about, this is going to be number 7, I think, tomorrow. The idea is basically to do a session between Claris FileMaker developers and Claris staff around the subject, and it's more a discussion than actually a presentation. So I've done one with Wim de Court on security in general. We did a couple of on AI. We did one on Present FileMaker 2024. The one we're doing tomorrow is specifically more on security on FileMaker server and how admin users leverage some of the tools that we built. So we invited tomorrow a FileMaker developer from a company called Claris, based in Europe. They've been doing a lot of hosting for a lot of customers for a long time, both on Windows and various environment. And the idea is to basically grow new updates that we had in FileMaker 2024 and how they leverage it and the good things, the bad things. So it's really more like a conversation between Claris and partners and developers around the world that we've done. There was one last week on AI, and there's going to be another one week after, I think next week again, or in 2 weeks' time, again on AI, but use cases, like not the marketing information that I give you. It's really about like use cases of developers who've been trying to figure out how to leverage AI inside FileMaker solutions. And there's going to be quite a couple of great examples around that. So come to the one tomorrow if you have any questions. Essentially, and the thing is, we do ask people to ask a lot of questions. The idea is really like discussion versus too much of just a presentation. And then the idea after that is to run a live session pretty much every 2 weeks on pretty much any subject. So if anyone's interested or anyone has a subject they really sort of like and they would actually want to go through an hour talking about it and then asking questions around it, just give us a shout, an email, and then we can see what we can do.
Thanks. I see Jerry. I think Jerry has raised his hand.
Yeah, I have a question. This is going to seem like a flippant question, but I really mean it in all seriousness, and it comes from a place of love. Am I the only one who's totally confused and baffled why FileMaker 2023 is FileMaker version 20, and then now 2024 has come out, but that's really FileMaker version 21 in the background? Are we going to see any agreement between the marketing guys and the engineering guys between these two? It's really, for my end users, it's totally confusing.
Yeah, one of the things we were trying to actually sort of do, which is always a problem when you have a versioning system versus a date, is how you actually sort of get people to move away from the versioning system and get them to understand that, well, there's a FileMaker 2020 whatever version, I have to be on latest version. Like if I ask you basically in the Windows world which version of Excel you have, everyone's going to go, well, I've got Excel. It updates every time. I don't really count. Even if you bought a finished good version of Excel, and I think the latest version was Excel 2021, or if there's another one, no one really knows the version number. And the idea for us is to go is, well, if we have just one name and we move away from this versioning number, and which to people is just basically be on the latest one every time, it's going to get people to actually be on the latest version every time and not create this issue of people going, well, I've got 19.3.2. Does it have this version or doesn't it have not this version? So we're really trying to actually sort of see and figure a way for people to be always on the latest version. I know that a lot of people don't actually agree with this, this is what we're trying to do as a global company, is how to actually make sure that you move away from the impediment, which essentially is the versioning number that we have to create. You have like minor, major version, and it gets really confusing. The idea is to go is every year there's a new version, just be on the latest one. And while we're doing this sort of kind of conversion in terms of the naming, we're building new tools so that updates of FileMaker could be done with more control for the developer. And so what we're working on as well is to be able to give control for the developer so that through the FileMaker server, they can control the FileMaker running on their user's machine, so that they can say, I want those 20 guys to be on FileMaker 2024. The next time they launch FileMaker or they connect FileMaker server, it will basically upload their FileMaker Pro. So the idea is to give more control for the end user so that more people can be on the latest version, which has potentially less bugs, the new features and stuff like that.
Sure.
But I know
Okay.
it's confusing, but it's
Yeah.
transitioning from an old way of doing things to a new way always takes a bit of time. And yeah, especially globally and because of different, but we'll get there eventually. All right.
Okay, good.
Thanks.
Do you think there will come a time when we're no longer downloading a new version of FileMaker and it's all just software updates, even to go for a major build update?
So what we'll do is for this, I think we'll probably put this option through the admin console. The only issue with that is, even though, it's kind of easier maybe sometimes on the Mac or the Windows world, it's just some environment, some type of industry either can't do the updates because they're running software that can't be updated. Like education is a nightmare. I mean, if anyone works with education, is whenever there's an update, they have to check so many things, medical environment, stuff like that. So even though we thought it could be a nice way to actually go as a new version to actually does the update, in other cases, and because of the solution has to work with the update, we want to give the control to the developer. And the developer of the solution, who's normally the admin or the partner, will be able to actually control and decide, okay, I updated my solution, now the end user can actually update, and I control when they can actually do it, so that you just do, like, somebody can do it, you have one download, it's on the server locally, and it takes 5 seconds to upload the machines versus downloading and taking ages. So, the angle is really going towards, like Brad's been saying, is like, or we would say, like, is FileMaker without a developer is just a box that has nothing, no meaning. So we really have to give more tools to developers for them to be able to do their job properly.
That's music to our ears. Wow.
This is Jerry Salem again. I want to piggyback on that. That sounds like magic. I don't know how you're going to get around validation for like full access accounts on Windows machines to update software. But that's basically why I know for my main client, I just moved them all to WebDirect. And then it's just whenever I update the server, they just get updated.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I mean, we have already tool to be able to actually do like silent install the FileMaker Pro on devices. So there's a few tools that we already have basically on the Windows side. And the idea as well is on top of it is once we have the stuff, it will go through ETS. Some of our big sort of partners and developers do a lot of development for Windows customers. So we'll be able to actually learn what we need to actually really do around it. And again, because we do know that in a lot of cases, people prefer to actually have web-based app, we've done quite a lot of investment in WebDirect to fix as many of the bugs that we basically knew were there over the last, I would say 2-3 years, so that if basically the desktop version doesn't work, at least you have a web app environment that is stable enough to be able to actually run some of the great apps. One of the work that we're trying to do again, which is more about education, is around the fact that, and it's getting better, I would say, even if we haven't done a good amount, is to, in a lot of cases, explain to people the big difference between creating a desktop app and a web app. And I think it's getting better because people have been seeing that if you create something for a Windows machine and you have huge amount of features on a desktop version, you can't put that directly on the web app or through WebDirect. But the idea is for us to maybe figure out and maybe create more tools on the server that could actually do some of the work that used to be done on desktop, so that the WebDirect environment has more power in the future.
Mhm.
Can I jump in with a question? It's also an
Yeah.
audio test. Apologies. I don't know. Something was wrong before. Hey, Doug, in the what's coming up on the wish list, one of the things was templates. So I'm kind of hoping that the templates are going to be produced anonymously, because I've been on behalf of a number of user groups looking for code to kind of review as a meeting topic. So maybe that's a little bit of a suggestion, because not everybody wants their code, reviewed. I put some of my code up, some good, some bad. Do you know the templates? By the way, I think that having templates, which used to be there as a prime learning tool, and then they kind of went away. And so I'm very, I'll upvote it on the website, but I'm very happy publicly to say that I think templates are awesome, both for business logic and code patterns. But are they going to be anonymous? Kind of hope they are. And are you going to be inviting user groups to kind of use them as presentation material?
So
Even to the point of code review?
We
or
could,
not?
No, they can. I mean, you can remove where you can from the XML. You could remove some of the stuff.
They're going to be open. They're going to be open. I assume they're going to be open. Otherwise, what's the point?
The templates will be completely open. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's part of, we have an initiative basically to actually redo the starter solutions, the templates, the kind of the add-on stuff like that. The way we think of doing the templates isn't actually us doing it. We will provide the tools for people to be able to create templates.
Okay. I mean, I think that's terrific, because in my opinion, and I was talking with a couple other developers earlier today, the capabilities of the platform are massive. And I think it's going to take a combined effort to showcase the capabilities, to their full glory in the starter solutions. Because I've been around for a while, and I've seen, DevCon presentations that came close to showing what the platform can do. But so it's kind of a compliment to say that the platform is so awesome that it's very challenging to make templates that live up to the platform.
Yeah. Well, the work that we're doing on the add-ons is to be kind of opening up a bit more areas inside the systems where the way you could save like the JavaScript or some of the information stored in an environment that makes a bit more sense. Like currently, in a lot of cases, is you have to actually put your JavaScript inside a text object on a layout, which is not the place it should be. I mean, it should be stored in a table somewhere where people can actually sort of track changes to that. So we're kind of opening up the add-ons environment because what we've realized in a lot of cases, whether it's add-ons, starter solution, there's a lot of people that actually start FileMaker when they start using FileMaker, they start using starter solutions. They play a bit too much with it. They kind of do errors. They remove something, they break it. They don't really know what they've done. And then they basically give up on FileMaker because they think the software isn't good. It's just that they broke something and they don't know how to fix it. And one of the things that we created with the add-ons was to be able to kind of uninstall the add-ons if you didn't actually want to use it anymore. And so the error behind it to be able to actually kind of control a bit more some of the updates you could do to your templates. But if you basically wanted to revert back to previous version, you would be able to actually do that, which is why we're creating those sort of hash scripts and then objects information to the XML so that we have a bit more control of kind of not versioning, but undoing changes inside the solution. So we're trying to open up so that it's easier for people to be able to play around with FileMaker and then revert back, and even for seasoned developers to be able to do changes and have more control over how they do versioning, which I don't really like the word versioning inside the FileMaker, but that's kind of the stuff that we want to try to bring inside the solution.
All right, all very interesting. I mean, I started on the starter templates from way back, and I know they've gone through, like, different developers over the years have done them. And as a New Yorker, I'm not afraid to bring a little controversy. Some of the starting solutions over the years have been quite awesome, and some of them have been a little bit overly complex on the code, which is why I was suggesting, open them up for discussion. Anyway, I like what you guys are doing overall, and I look forward to what you come out with.
Well, the thing is, again, with the templates is, and we had it on some version, is kind of, well, we had a lot of things with not really hacks, but kind of close to a hack of leveraging a feature that was really made for that. Which was creating issues, because if someone did actually understand how the hack was actually performed, they would really sort of kill it within quickly. So the idea is to do great stuff inside the FileMaker using native supported script steps and functions, so that you don't really create things that shouldn't really be there. So.
Yeah. Final thought here from me is that, I'll put myself under the microscope here. I did a presentation for DigFM. I'll drop a link where, the theme of the presentation was like, look at all the stupid things that I've done over the years, because I've done plenty. I've been around 20 years, plenty of room for opportunity to do stupid stuff. And then I did some things that were clever, and some of that's quite recently. And it's bread and butter features, finding, sorting, just bread and butter, not the fancy pants calendaring stuff and this and that. And I think that that's where the on-ramp is. If you can take the power of FileMaker and you can write the code that's simple, and that's what I did for my little presentation, making fun of myself and boasting in the same presentation. Anyway, I'll just drop a link, and I like what you guys are doing.
Oh, thanks. We aim to please. I think it's the motto that we have now.
Très bon.
Très bon.
All right. Any other questions for Doug? All right. So I think we can close up shop today. We'll share the recording from the call today with the group, and then Doug, when you have the PowerPoint, let me know, and I'll post it to the group as well.
Yeah, will do.
All right. Thank you very much. Yep. Thank you, Doug.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you, Stephen.
Have a great day. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you.